So it's been a while. Hi. First of all, excuse the way I look. There's no reason for me looking like this, like I'm not sick or anything. Well, I am, but like, whatever. I just look like this. This is how I always look. Um, Second of all, yes, I know I don't upload on here, but I feel like talking about my experience with college. Um, because this year and last year have been formative years in my college experience and have been years where I've learned a lot about the university lifestyle and how and myself, and a lot of things have happened in the past year. Okay, so we're gonna talk about it today. I'm a rambler. Okay, I like to yap. So grab some tea, um, grab some snacks, settle down, put me on the background for white noise, or just watch this with no volume on. Whatever tickles your fancy. Okay, so first, hi. I'm for those who are new here, I'm Ada. I'm 18 going on 19. And I am a student, and we're gonna talk about that. So let's start from the beginning. So I studied in France from ages 5. So I lived in France from ages 5 to 18, and I studied there. And last year was my last year of high school, and we had to pass exams, the baccalaureate, and that's in 2 different years. And I got it. I don't know how I got it, if I'm being honest. Like I sucked at math. Took that as an elective. We're not even gonna talk about that because that's just the thought of a differential equation is making me sweat. So, anyways, in France, the way university works is that you go, you have a portal. It's called Parcoursup. If you are French, I'm probably making your blood pressure go up by just saying the name Parcoursup, but it is an app, an online service by the government, where basically you enter your details, and the government basically assigns you to a university based on how good of marks you get on your final exams. You can't enter a university without those final exams. It's a very complicated system. It's basically like an algorithm. It takes months. It's annoying. But last year I completed that, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life last year, because I feel like this might be true for like many people who studied during COVID. I kind of like lost the plot when it comes to knowing what I want to do with my life, because it was like, it all felt like kind of a blur. Second of all, sorry, ignore the noise. I live in an apartment building. Okay, I don't live in a mountain. We're gonna have some noise. We're gonna have to be okay with that, you and I. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I am originally from Bosnia, which, if you don't know, is a country in Europe sandwiched in between Croatia and Serbia. That's pretty much the most complimentary description I can give it. So last year I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna study the Balkans. Multiple reasons for that. I thought, first of all, they had a high acceptance rate. I'm not gonna fool anyone. I chose universities that had a high acceptance rate. I just didn't want to be disappointed. You know, 2024 was a rough year. I didn't need that on top of everything. So I'm gonna study the Balkans, and then maybe I can figure out what I want to do later on. Maybe I'll be a translator. Maybe I'll go to international relations. Maybe I'll do something, you know? I don't know. But I'm gonna study the Balkans. It's gonna be a good idea. It's gonna be wonderful. I'm gonna feel more at home with my culture. Spoiler alert, I did not. So I spent the summer in London, which is where my dad works, which is where my dad lives, actually, or lived. Now he's back in France. It's a complicated situation. Okay, there's a lot of tea. There's a lot of lore that you need to know. Someday I'll make a video about my parents' special little work / relationship arrangements someday, but not today, okay? Today I don't feel like opening that bag of worms. So the summer I spent in London here, and I was excited. I felt like I was gonna, I felt excited. I was gonna like, oh my god, yeah, I'm gonna have like this new experience in my life. I'm gonna turn 18 because I was turning 18 in September. And I'm gonna, start university. I'm gonna feel at home. I'm gonna do something like because university is so hyped up in everywhere. It's so hyped up. It's considered like the freedom years. You do whatever you want. It's like, that's kind of what like the image that I'd been given in my mind. So September rolls around and I start, and not even before starting my classes, I found out that I had PCOS, which that was kind of a buzzkill because I found that out like a week before turning 18. And PCOS heavily impacts fertility, so I was like, I was basically learning that like it was gonna be hard for me to have kids like a week before not being a kid, and I was dealing with that whole shebang. So September was already off to a rough start. Okay, I was put on birth control. That didn't work. I was bleeding my guts out. We were not having a fun time. Okay, we were not having a fun time. And I was in pain, and I was not very well, okay? But September rolls around, and so I have that in my mind, so I'm already kind of like bummed out. So I start my university, which I'm not gonna name the university because there's no point, but it's a big university, and that's kind of why I chose it, whatever. So I start my university. First of all, there were like 20 people who chose this course, I guess, because there were 20 people that thought on the last day before faculty closed, oh yeah, I should probably put in something. And half of those people were originally from the Balkans, so I was not alone. First day, I come in. There's our advisor. So, I'm trying to translate best into terms because it's kind of different in the UK, in the US, and in France. But like basically our advisor, like our head teacher, whatever. And he was basically going around asking us why we chose this. And he said, I know a lot of y'all chose this because you thought it was gonna be easy. I was like, joke's on you. I didn't choose this because of anything. And then he comes to me and he asks, well, what are you going to do with this degree? I'm like, I'm going to try to get into international relations. And he said, that's not going to happen. So, fresh start. How fun. Day one, introduction. That's not going to happen. Okay, cool. Whatever. So we start classes, and I kind of get into the groove of this nightmare. I kind of get in the groove of this nightmare, all the while I'm handling a recent PCOS diagnosis and a diagnosis for obsessive compulsive disorder, which I was not aware I had. I was diagnosed for years with generalized anxiety disorder. I was talking to my psychiatrist, and then she made me do some tests for OCD, and now I have OCD. So I was just kind of dealing with a lot, and then like my family was not, I was dealing with a lot at home as well, so we were not vibing, okay? So I was getting into like a groove, and then the more I was learning about my culture, the more I realized this isn't making me feel more at home whatsoever, because the life of an immigrant is basically feeling lost no matter where you live, okay? It's like, I don't feel at home when I'm at home in Bosnia. I don't feel at home when I'm in my chosen home, France, and I don't feel at home, well, I feel kind of more at home here, because here it's like everyone is not from here, you know what I mean? But I lived in a place in France where there were a lot of people from there, they had generational people living there, okay? So growing up, I kind of always felt like an outsider because, my parents were different. They had a weird accent. I have a weird last name. It was, you know, it was different. So I thought that maybe if I got a degree, I would feel more at home. That's not true. Our professors, we were learning about the language. When we were learning the language, more specifically, we're not just learning about it, but our professors were kind of I remember this one professor telling us, you may speak the language, but you'll never be really from there. Even if your parents are from there, you'll never be really from there. So I was like, cool. 8 a.m. Let's maybe tone it down. I don't fucking know. And maybe I'm too sensitive, okay? Most definitely. But it was just kind of like a buzzkill. Like, universities in France, I definitely feel like they're not as politically correct as universities in the UK. And if you wonder how I know that, stick around. See, this is a bit of a foreshadowing moment. Foreshadowing. And also my parents worked in universities in England, so I know a little bit more. But anyways, so I was kind of, the reality of like what I was doing with my life was setting in, and I was realizing, wow, I don't like what I'm doing with my life. Like, at all. Like, at all. I really don't. I study, but that's about it. I dread going to lectures. I hate all of it. I find I find what we learn to be depressing, because obviously it's gonna be fucking depressing. Okay, we had like 400 years of occupation. It's gonna be sad, you know. But whatever. I was like, okay, this is something. This is definitely different. And I was like, maybe this is just like how you're supposed to feel when you're freshly 18. And then I took a sociology class, because I took an elective, and that elective was sociology. And when I tell you that was the only class that I actually gave a shit about, and it was an elective, I'm not even joking. The sociology class was what I would look forward to every week, because there I actually felt like I knew what the fuck I was doing, and I actually felt like I was learning things that I could apply in my real life. You know, it felt great. So January rolls around. I haven't had a great December. I'm kind of going through the dumps. Okay, I'm in the dumps. I'm not vibing. January rolls around. I have an identity crisis, as one does when they're 18. And then I started to think, damn, I really fucking hate what I'm doing with my life. Like, I really do. Like, this is not fun whatsoever. And so for a while I just kind of wallowed in my own sadness and like kind of sat with it and trying to distract myself, like pretending like someday it will go away. Fun fact, if you don't feel good about what you're doing in September, by January it's probably still gonna be the same, you know? At least for me, it was like you can't ignore it for indefinitely. So then I started thinking, what do I actually want to do with my life? In the back of my mind, since I was a kid, there was always this like tiny pellet of, I want to do medicine. I want to do medicine. Like, I want to feel useful. I want to help people. You know, I want to be part of society, you know? Because my parents are academics. They're academics and they work in mathematics. So I grew up kind of like in this weird world where I grew up around mathematicians, okay? And to say they don't touch grass is kind of like an understatement. No hate to mathematicians. I wanted to be one of y'all too when I was a kid. Turns out I fucking hate math, but I just wanted to be liked by my own mother. That's another closet we'll open later. Just shove it back in, you know? But I never felt like I wanted to do something that would make me part of society, but also an active, like somebody who could help, and somebody who could help by doing things that I was interested in. Because for better or for worse, well, actually for worse, when I was a kid I got operations done on my teeth and stuff because I was born with a genetic defect, and I found it kind of fascinating, you know, when they explained to me what they were gonna do, and I was like, yeah, dude, that sounds, I mean, I'm terrified, but yeah, sure, explain to me how you're gonna slice my face open. Like, do it. go great, go queen, teach me. But but throughout my years I realized, like, you know, with like my depression, which is something that's like I'm under medication for my depression and for my OCD, so we're kind of like managing that. But I was kind of like, I'm not gonna be able to do this feasibly. And then in January I thought, what if, hear me out, what if I try? What if I try? Like, I might fail. Granted, there's a high chance that I might fail. Cool. But like, wouldn't it be cool if I just tried? Like, I don't know. Like, life is, like, when people say life is short, it's funny to me because it's like, life is the longest things humans will ever experience, right? It's like, no, it's not. I can take a gap year. I can like figure out my, So in February, I started applying to schools, to psychology schools, to psychology programs in schools. Now, I know you might be wondering, why didn't you just jump in straight to medicine? Because I wanted to give myself options, and also I wanted to build like a really good, like a really good resume before I entered before I tried to enter into medical school. And I was because I'm gonna be honest, my grades weren't the best in high school, so I kind of wanted to like pick it up. And also a field that has always kind of fascinated me has been psychiatry. So it's like, if I'm gonna do psychology, it might give me just like a dip, just like a taste, and I'll figure out what I can do from there. And like with a psychology degree, I felt like I could do more than with a degree in the Balkans. Even though a lot of people say like, oh, you can't do anything with a degree in psychology. Probably true if you're just gonna leave it at that. But like, you can do more things than you can with a degree in the Balkans. We're gonna be fucking honest, okay? AI is taking the job, is taking translating jobs, for better or for worse. We just have to fucking accept it, okay? I hate AI as much as the next blue-haired bitch, but so in February, so yeah, it was actually in February that I started applying to schools, and I started applying to schools in the UK, because I was like, what if I just like fuck around? I might just fuck around, like, because schools in France, I was not gonna go through I tried to go through the whole Parcoursup thing, but they're gonna prioritize students who graduated this year and not losers like me, So in February, I started applying to schools in the UK. I kind of had like no expectation of it like turning into anything. I was just kind of like, hey, whatever happens, happens. And what happened is I got accepted into an online program. Keep in mind, online, for multiple reasons. One, it's way cheaper. Like, we're not gonna shit ourselves. I'm not gonna pretend I had the type of money to like pay 30 grand per semester to go to an in-person school in the UK. School here is expensive. Okay, you do know how it's expensive. So I'm not gonna pretend I have that type of money. I had some money in my savings from working, and that could just about cover like my first year of online studying, which is what I did. Once I applied, I went through the most grueling 48 hours of my life where I waited for the response, because it's a pretty good university, online university, and I applied to get a degree with honors in psychology. It would take me 4 years. So I was kind of expecting them to be like, girl, what the fuck are these results in front? The fuck are these results? Are you serious? Do we see each other? But then I realized, like, oh yeah, they have more of an economic incentive than they do in France, because in France it's like $300 for the entire year, which is relatively more affordable than what I'm currently paying now. Yeah. So I got the acceptance. I may or may not have done some celebrations that may or may not have landed me hungover for 2 days straight. But regardless, I got accepted. I was very happy. Now, and it's currently what I'm doing right now. I'm doing online school, and you might be wondering, then why are you living in England if it's online? Can you just work from home? Okay. I know this may be a complete shock to everyone based on my flag, my hair, my jewelry, my presents. But I actually don't have a great relationship with my mother. I know that's crazy to believe, but I really don't. And so she lives at home, right? She lives at home naturally, as she does. And so I was kind of like, well, hey, you know what I think is healthy for me, and like something my therapist had like actually advised, is that I leave this place. You know, I kind of take some fresh air, see how I like living in England alone. And if I don't like it, then I can go back home, because, you know, this is technically my dad's place, but he was like, yeah, dude, go away, get away from your mother with peace and love. And I don't mean that to be mean. I mean that like as a fact of reality. Like, my mother has she has some issues that she doesn't want to get help for, and at some point my dad and I can only do so much. It's not my circus, not my monkeys, you know. So she had been, for context, she had been in a state of like pretty aggressive delirium since November. And like, she started having these episodes in like 2020. And if you are saying like, oh, you know, you should try to get her help, she has the type of she was paranoid. So she was actively refusing any help, and that was taking a toll on me and my dad. My dad is old. I'm maybe not the best person to be talking about this shit 24/7, and she was getting aggressive. Now, I can feel empathy for someone who is struggling, right? I can definitely feel empathy for someone who's struggling. I can see that, but it comes to a certain point where it's like, if she was threatening me, my life, on a bi-weekly basis, and I would try to call people, but then she would only start to threaten herself. And like, I know a lot of people might say, you should have just called the emergency room, you know, do something. I need y'all to remember that I am 18. Okay, I am 18. I've lived with this woman for all my life. It's not really fucking easy to call the emergency room, to call emergency services when your mother is holding up a knife to her own wrists. It's not really that fucking easy. I know it seems it's a lot easier to give advice than it is to actually live it. And talking with professionals and stuff, what we realized is like, we just have to wait for this delirium to, because like, I'm calling it delirium because I don't have a lack of words. Basically, she thinks the entire world is against her, and she sees codes and everything. She sees cameras everywhere. It's wild, you know. It's kind of scary. But we just kind of came to the realization that like, one day she's gonna get caught by someone in the street because she's threatening someone, and that nature will take its course. Okay, so I thought, I need to get out of this house. Which, you do feel some type of guilt. Like, I'm not gonna pretend it was easy to decide to leave my mother, you know, especially because I was very dependent on her for my emotional stability. I'm an only child. I felt reliant on her emotionally. If she was happy, I was happy. If she was sad, I was sad. It was just too much. I couldn't really keep relying on her. So I moved out, and I moved to England, technically to my dad's place, which is what we're doing now. I do just want to say I have the great privilege of having divorced parents. Meaning that my dad has his own place, but now he just, when he's not working, he kind of goes home. It's a weird situation, man. I'm not gonna explain all the details, but basically he got this place when they got divorced, and it's like our crash pad when we need to get away from her. And it also works because when he comes back to teach and stuff, it can be like we can be together, and it's like, you know, it's not like I'm living alone, you know what I mean? It's lonely, but it's not, you know, I'm alone, but it's not lonely, if that makes any sense. So I'm very, very grateful that, like, obviously, like, all the jokes aside, I'm grateful that I have this opportunity, and I'm also grateful that I was able to, that I have, like, the facilities to leave and to pay for education. With a job, it helps. With a job, it helps. And when your parents, you know, doing anything when you're young without your parents' support or with having an unstable relationship with your parents can be tough. And I definitely think that, you know, and I'm very lucky that I had the that I have the tools to help me, you know, do things with myself. I know a lot of people don't get that opportunity, and I'm still very grateful for that. But I'm not gonna pretend and say that if it weren't for my mother's aggression, manipulation, and straight up abuse, because yeah, that it's straight up abuse, and like it takes a while to figure that out. But I'm not gonna pretend like if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be living. I would still be living on my own. I definitely think that I would stay with my parents for a while longer, because I don't think anyone at 18 is really, like, maybe yeah, I would have left the coop, but I definitely think I would have done it in better circumstances than just like packing up my shit and going. Yeah, but part of like me moving here was kind of the thing that was kind of complicated for me to move here, was because moving here also meant like accepting the fact that my mother's abuse has an impact on me. Now, even though I had been through like the whole social services thing when I was a kid, and like, you know, because she was deemed like unfit, to take care of me. So I had been through all that shit, okay? Which is when like people started telling me like, yo, what you're going through is like not normal. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? Your mother doesn't just like threaten to kill herself on random Wednesday? What are you doing with your life, man? You know, threatening to kill herself because I was gay, and you know, it was a whole thing. But even though I had gone through all that, I still hadn't really accepted the fact that it hurts. And like, yo, I'm actually affected by this. Like, I'm not, and I don't know why I didn't realize it sooner. I think it was maybe because I wanted to, because, you know, it's not exactly something that you love to think about, like, oh yeah, I don't have a great relationship with my mother. You want to pretend, okay? You want to pretend for like years that you have an awesome relationship with your mother, and all your issues are caused by you yourself. Spoiler alert, when you if when you leave an environment, you get better on your own, that environment probably wasn't good for you. So yeah, so I've been going through a lot this year. This year started off not great, not super delicious, but we're here, man. Anyways, that's all the rambling I've gotten me today. If you watched up until here, first of all, why? Second of all, thank you. I will see you guys in the next 3 years, I think, maybe. And yeah, if my voice is anything but agitating to you, please click like, subscribe, and I will definitely think about uploading maybe once every decade. You know, we're gonna settle on that. Anyways, peace.